Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've sat through I don't know how many of these hearings and listened to my colleagues across the aisle talk about things that just don't match the science, you know, the floods, the intense storms, that even the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change disputes. And it's amazing to me. It's also amazing to me what you're doing to the U.S. economy. They named their bill that has this $27 billion slush fund in it, the Inflation Reduction Act. And just since the passage of that bill, American families have been hammered with record high inflation, causing adjusted household income to fall by the most since the Obama administration, falling by 17%. So really what this should have been called, and by the way, inflation's back up in December, should have been called the Income Reduction Act. In addition, you know, the UK has tried to lead Europe in going to renewables. Since they've done that, Britain will achieve the lowest peacetime growth rate since 1780. It's hammered their economy. 1780, the year before Yorktown, I'm sure you had history and you know that was the American Revolution. In terms of what they're paying, Britain's paid $228 per megawatt hour for coal-generated electricity in 2022 compared to $27 because that's what the British government wants. They want to run up the cost of hydrocarbon fuel. It's $251 per megawatt hour for natural power generated by natural gas, where it's $61 in the U.S. And I could go on, and yet here we are going to throw $27 billion into renewables that people don't want, that won't meet our needs. There is no way that we can meet our needs with renewables. The only way that we can go to zero emissions will be nuclear. I'm a huge proponent of small modular nuclear. We're going to, you talk about creating jobs, we're going to create a lot of jobs in China. So can you guarantee the American people that none of this money will wind up in the hands of the Chinese Communist Party or their affiliates in their industries?
Thank you for the question, Congressman. As a brief,
I know you're grateful for that question, so answer it.
So we have two sets of rigorous controls here. First of all,
No, I just asked you a simple question. It's a yes or no answer. And as far as your rigorous controls go, it reminds me of the gain of function controls that you had on American dollars going into that, where you were given to a grantee and then to a sub-grantee, and there was no oversight over that. And I dare say, I doubt seriously there'll be any oversight over this. But it's a yes or no. Can you answer that question?
So, Congressman, unfortunately, the answer is a little more complicated. But I would.
Well, no, it's simple. You cannot guarantee that because we cannot build renewables without investments from China or into Chinese companies, because we don't produce anything in terms of critical minerals and rare earths anywhere close to sufficient to what we need. China controls 70% of the cobalt mining. The Biden administration is shutting down the largest reserve of cobalt in the United States in northern Minnesota. So, yeah, the answer is yes. Money's going to wind up in the hands of the Chinese. And you sit there with a blank look on your face because you don't have a response.
So, Congressman, I would love to respond, because what we've seen just over the first year since the Inflation Reduction Act was passed is over $100 billion in private investment in clean energy manufacturing. And so what we're doing is we are placing requirements on our grantees that they adhere to the statutory
But here's the thing.
Buy America requirements.
Yeah, I know you're pushing out electric vehicles and all that, but you cannot even make a battery, because I tell people we don't make semiconductors, microchips. We don't make batteries. We assemble them from parts from China.
So
we're not in any position to achieve energy independence in this country, which we could achieve almost overnight if we unleashed just our natural gas.
So fortunately, the Inflation Reduction Act trusts that we are going to deliver on that American manufacturing, and we're seeing the private sector mobilize. And I'm confident that as this program scales up and we're funding...
One last question.
Yes, sir.
You talked about emissions Do you know how much emissions have gone down since 1980? Even though our economy's grown over 700%, our vehicle miles are up 90-something percent. Do you have any idea how much we've reduced emissions?
I know that since 2005, we have reduced emissions significantly, even as the economy.
We've reduced emissions by over 60% of all 6 criteria gases the EPA tracks. You work for the EPA, you should have known that. Now, you'll